Have you been feeling unstable, maybe even anxious, depressed, confused? Maybe you're feeling like life is slinging you around in all of these different directions, seemingly almost against your will. Let's talk about the timelines, because if you are having this type of experience, I want to share with you some of the things that I have been witnessing within the collective field of timelines that very well may be related to some of the intensity that you have been or are experiencing. I also want to talk about this to help you leverage some upcoming opportunities that hopefully will catapult you. Okay. For those of you who are less familiar with me, my name is Asha Monia. I am a teacher, seer, and mentor for Grounded Mystics. If you are here, including on the replay, make sure to say hello. I love knowing that you're here. Don't be a voyeur behind the scenes. Like, interact and, yeah, at minimum say hello, hello, hello. Okay. Let's drop in. There is a way that timelines are occurring right now that's pretty out of the ordinary, to say the least. There is a kind of massive expansion that is possible. However, there's also this kind of friction in the field that's also impacting timelines. And you may be feeling this like inside of yourself internally, or experiencing some like shaking and shifting and kind of chaotic energy in your life because of what's going on with the timelines. There's a pretty extreme contrast of timelines that's happening right now. Like, it's like we're on the edge. Okay? And I don't want to get y'all down. But look, humanity has not been very accountable in the fact that we've had a ton of opportunities to awaken, to expand, to really enter into new states of awareness that are more so equivalent to a new paradigm. But what has happened is that a lot of people have not actually received and digested those opportunities into forms of embodiment. This includes souls that came here intentionally to be a part of this shift at this time. So this means that there were, let's say, within the quantities of percentages of potentials relative to future outcomes and timelines, that there aren't actually enough souls filling seats that are equal to the contracts that they agreed to before entering onto Earth. This is important because it is directly impacting timelines at this time. As in, if those seats had been filled, and if people had really received the evolutionary opportunities and done the work of truly digesting and anchoring in new paradigms to the degree that was intention and predicted before this time on Earth, then we would have a far higher concentration of energy that was moving toward this higher timeline potential that so many of us had sensed since, for example, 2012. Unfortunately, because not all of those seats, a good chunk of them, have not been fulfilled, there's a shaking and shifting inside of the creative potentials right now that we didn't predict. And so this is also why I want to speak to this, because if you're someone who is here to really anchor in a new paradigm, I want to support you to do that. That's what I'm here for, right? Personally and collectively, and also communally. I facilitate that. So right now, because of all the factors that I just described, there is a contrast in the field that we could not have predicted of extremes. as in there are true fallen timelines that are in the field to a higher concentration than I would like to even share with you right now. It's not something I like saying publicly. And then there's still, of course, this frame of infinite potentials that also accumulates into aligning with higher timelines. That still does exist, right? Right now, those two things, even though it's a multitude of timelines, those two things are like friction in the field, friction in the field, friction in the field. I want to give you this example. When you're a multidimensional being, and let's say that you remember heavenly-like dimensions, there are plenty of them. And then right now, you're incarnated in human form. And this dimension is a fallen dimension. We have to just be very real about that. We are existing in a fallen dimension, and those of us who have decided to contract here to create a new paradigm is to bring back alignment so that there can be restoration within this fallen dimension, and therefore there can be access to extraordinary potentials, beyond extraordinary potentials. Gaia is, ooh, baby, she's an ultimate alchemist, co-collector. There's a ton of potential that lives on Earth. Okay, so if you have this experience as a multidimensional being, you can actually sense and feel and remember dimensions that were heavenly. And yet you're here incarnated in human form. Sometimes this can be really difficult. Because you're like, oh my God, I'm in a hell realm. Like, why is there so much suffering? Why can't people see? Why are there people who are void of soul? Why is there a lack of heart connection? What is going on here? Okay? And it's because you remember that remembering brings contrast in the field between heaven and hell. And what happens is it amplifies the intensity of hell. If you walk around and you're ignorant and you have no recollection or remembrance of other dimensional spaces that are heavenly, you have no point of comparison, right? It would just like be like if there were pure-hearted humans and non-pure-hearted humans, and you're a pure-hearted human, then you realize, oh my gosh, there are people who just like, they're not pure-hearted. Like there's a difference in your experience. But people who are not pure-hearted, they can't sense that. They can't really see that. They can't really touch that. It's not accessible to them in the same way. My people are the ones who are pure-hearted and mystical and multidimensional and here to anchor in a new paradigm. So that's also why I'm speaking to this, because you may feel the intensity relative to contrast to a far greater degree than most people do. This also is equal to the contrast I was talking about in the field of potentials that is equal to what is going on in timelines right now, because there's heaven hell timelines going on right now. Like it's all in the field, but nothing has actually landed. So that's also a part of the confusion. So you may feel like you're getting swung in one direction, then all of a sudden you're swung in another direction and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? You could also be feeling like, I don't know if I want to be on Earth anymore. I don't know if I want to be on Earth right now. Part of why that is because if you contracted to anchor in new paradigms, that was also equal to heavenly like timelines, and because there's a higher concentration of timelines equal to falls in the field than we expected, you can feel the intensity of the falls and the intensity of those timelines to a far greater degree, and you didn't sign up for that. You did not sign up for that. You signed up to get collective humanity and yourself from here to here, not go down with collective humanity. All of that is in the field right now, and that can be a lot. Of course it's a lot. It just is a lot, right? So, I want to take this on an up note, because it can be a little bit of a downer. Here's the thing. Right now, what I would encourage you to do is detachment, okay? Why am I saying detachment is because then you won't get slung over here, to get slung over here, to get slung over here, to get slung over here. If you have this kind of detachment and you are, this is what I'm doing. I lay it all to the altar of the mother. Okay, I'm like, I give over the timeline potentials, I hand them over at the altar of the mother. May the mother choose what timeline I move into. May the mother choose what timeline the collective moves into. If you do that right now, you're not going to feel like you're getting swung around. And what you're doing is you're surrendering into a deeper trust. This is also helpful because think about how, like, when you're in a down, how difficult it can be to energetically, emotionally, and otherwise align to a higher timeline, right? It's like there's a contrast in your personal experience, but you're going, I desire this timeline, but there isn't congruency relative to the actual energetic and otherwise alignment to get you there, okay? So I'm offering you a quantum hack of detachment, because likely you're going to feel intensity right now and you can't bypass your experience to get yourself into a higher timeline. It doesn't work that way. So if you detach and you offer it, you give it over to the altar of the mother. Now, when you do that, you also have to say, I will participate. You show me the way, I will step in. I will lead with devotion and a pure heart, right? Like, you have to be committed when you're surrendering things over. You're not going, I surrender over all of the timelines and all of my work and everything. I just hand it over to destiny. Because that does not work. That's bypassing, okay? So there is a degree of participation even when you're surrendering. So this is going to support you in this now moment with all of the intensity relative to these timelines. Hello, Nicole. Hello, Kylie. I love that you're here. I also get to see that I see people's names. I don't see this when I'm not on my phone doing a live. Okay. So here's the next thing. What I've also been feeling is that there will be a shift come spring. There's going to be a shift in March that is going to kind of bring a bit more stability, where all of these uncertainties in the field, hi Luna, thank you for being here. All of these uncertainties in the field are kind of going to almost settle. And it's like, oh, you could actually have at that point a potential direction. Okay. Now look, the empty space, when we have the unknown and the I don't know, I know that it's very hard in this human experience because of patriarchal imprinting to settle into that space and to really know your worth and your value when you're inside of the empty space and it feels confusing and chaotic and you're doubting and all of that. But that empty space, that is literally where infinite potential manifests. It's literally the seed that grows into the timeline. So like, these moments are very important, and if you can settle into them, you can leverage them. And that's also what I'm encouraging you to do. So I'm saying, hey, we have all this unsettling, right? And we're in this empty space, and there's chaos and confusion relative to timelines that haven't settled. There's a lot of contrast. If you can settle in and surrender, drop into the seed and go, I hand it over to the altar of the mother. May the altar of the mother bloom the most fruitful timeline possible for me in this collective in the here and now. Okay? You settle there. Come mid-March, there's some kind of corridor, there's some kind of doorway, there's something behind it that we can't see yet. I'm saying that we can't see it yet because literally the timelines haven't settled. How would you be able to see it, right? But I know that the primed opportunity is there. This is also why I specifically chose March 21st and the 22nd for my 2-day online free, no cost, y'all, event called the Attunement, a Soulful Refresh. Now, something I haven't shared publicly to include even on the landing page for this free event, which, by the way, you can go to my link in bio, you can comment attunement, you can go to the link that's also pinned to this video to register. What I haven't shared is that in that 2-day process, the first day, second day, and totally intuitive coaching day, you might even have the opportunity to receive direct and free support from me, which, y'all, if you haven't been a part of my world and my work, it's off the charts, okay? It's very rare to find. You really want to step into this opportunity. The first day is a teaching day. It's an immersive day. So what I do is I architect shamanic journey and otherwise experiences that have coding and move you through spaces dimensionally, but also anchors you back into this ground level experience. What I'm saying is I don't call these guided meditations, okay? If you want a guided meditation, go get on some app, go do it that way. What I bring through is different. I literally go in, I journey, I architect the actual space energetically and otherwise, the activations. There's so many activations in one of my immersives. It's unbelievable. You'll never get all the coding. You'll just receive the first dose of coding that you're meant to receive, whatever that means for you in that moment. So I have architected this experience over a month ago, and I continue to architect it. And what I do is I also walk through the initiations and the activations. I carve out the pathways so that after you go through the immersive experience, on the other side, and you have activations and you have initiations, I'm also doing the work to carve out the pathway so you have more fluidity as you're moving through that and bringing that into your life. Like, it's a whole next level thing. Okay, part of why I'm talking about this in this live today is because that primed opportunity, I don't know if you all can hear that plane. The primed opportunity, okay, this corridor and door that I see coming in March that is also equal to timeline potentials and opportunities. I am co-weaving that into this immersive shamanic experience for you. What this also does is it opens up a space into ether where there is less density and debris and distortion in the field. So it's a stabilized, clear, pure, energetic field that supports you in coming into alignment with yourself, that also corresponds to clean, pure, coded ether. That coding we bring through specifically for you, so each individual will have a different experience in this, because each individual has their own blueprint, their own soul's map, their own path, their own purpose, their own unique composition. We take that pure coding and we bring it through and into you relative to a state of clean, energetic alignment. And what happens is that we take that coding, I'm masterful in this, anyone who's a part of my world knows this, taking ether and bringing it into the physical. So we take that pure coding that's specifically aligned for you, relative to also a higher timeline. We bring it through the door and corridor that is opening in mid-March, and then we bring it onto the other side of the door into the physical. You guys, this will, you could quantum leap into a timeline. You could have a totally different opening and experience coming in the rest of 2022 just because you go to this free online event with me. For real, for real. So this is why I'm doing this at this time. And again, this is not something I'm sharing on my landing page. I'm sharing it with you here because if you don't hear my voice, how are you going to have any idea? It's just, you can't write this on a landing page. Again, if you have not registered for the attunement, a soulful refresh, I highly, highly recommend it. Also, for those of you who have not registered yet or you have registered yet, make sure to read that initial email, because the initial email is going to give you an opportunity to be entered into a raffle for a free 90-minute session with me. It's a lot of value available. Feel free, and also I encourage you to share this with other people who will be resonant with other highly sensitive, intuitive, new paradigm creators, seers, so that they have the opportunity to attend this no-cost event. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Again, you can find the link in my bio. You can find it pinned here, or you could also just say the attunement, and I'll send you the link. As always, so much love to each and every one of you.